Leafs Converts Hockey World, what's up? This is the Leafs Convo podcast. I'm Norman James. It is great to be with you. Game 2 of 82 this evening. Sens Leafs at Scotiabank Arena. Are you pumped up? If not, we'll get you pumped up. Mike Augello is standing by from Scotiabank Arena. We'll discuss the game ahead. Maybe look back on that opener against the Habs. You know, there's a lot to be desired in terms of the Leafs play. We think they're on the up. Plus, we'll weigh in on William Nylander versus the Maple Leafs. I'm ready to go. Mike's ready to go. I know you're ready to go. So what do you say? Let's pod. The Leafs Convo starts right now. And here is our wonderful friend, the man we trust so much, Mr. Mike Augello. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Norman. How are you?
Not too bad. Anticipating tonight's Senators-Leafs game from Scotiabank Arena. I'd like to see a little bit of an upgrade in the Leafs' overall game. You were at the morning skate. Do you get that sense?
Oh, Mike Babcock definitely wants this team to build on what they did on Wednesday against the Canadiens. I mean, he wasn't happy with the effort 5-on-5. But they did win the game. Austin Matthews with a couple goals. Tavares breaking, getting on the scoreboard the first game. So there was positives, but, I think he wants to see better effort 5-on-5 and better effort in terms of their defensive game. They allowed 36 shots against Freddie Anderson. That just won't do.
All of us want to see better 5-on-5, but we're not complaining when the power play is on another level, right, Mike? I mean, it's just part of the game. And giving up too many shots isn't something that is overly encouraging. However, when your goaltender stands on his head, as he's supposed to do on most nights, especially if he's good and he's a part of a contender, then we're not complaining. It's never good enough.
No, but that's the role of a coach is to push and prod and get the best out of his team. And I mean, obviously, you can depend on that power play, the talent that's on that top power play to produce and hopefully produce regularly. But you can't use it as a crutch. You can't expect the team to play sort of average and have your power play dig you out of it. You have to be able to have all four lines going at a certain level, have your six defensemen, playing more responsible defensively and to generate offense. So it's a multi-system situation, and that's why Babcock will expect more from his team tonight.
It's impossible to be in mid-season form or playoff form at game 2. So this is obviously a work in progress, and there's always a bit of an explanation when we talk about rosters and who's playing on the team right now, who's with the Marlies, who's on the first pairing, who's on the third pairing, because it's the first draft of everything, right, Mike? The team that we see now, in all likelihood, won't be the exact team we see in April that ventures into the playoffs. Any lineup changes? Anything different we'll see against the Senators that we were exposed to against the Habs?
No, they're going with the exact same lineup, the exact same pairings. Now, the one thing that you noticed, and we both noticed against Montreal is there was some switching of the defensive pairings during the game. Some of that had to do with special teams usage. Some of it had to do with Babcock liking to in the second period not to have a young pairing like Dermott and Ozhiganov out there with the long change. He mixed things up, but Ron Hainsey didn't play particularly well, and I don't think Babcock will admit that. But I think that if he plays at the level that he played on Wednesday for a longer period, it may become a concern. But right now, it appears they're going to go with the same lineup tonight, and then tomorrow night in Chicago, Garrett Sparks is likely to get his first start of the season.
Morgan Rielly going to play with if it's not Ron Hainsey? Ron Hainsey should not be a part of a first pairing on a team that has championship aspirations, but it's basically you have. And, of Zaitsev and Gardner, that's a tandem that Mike Babcock wants to keep together. He had them last year. There were times where these guys were fantastic. Jake Gardner basically carrying most of the weight because Zaitsev had a terrible season for the most part. However, he's hoping to, see these guys go to another level. Travis Dermott, obviously not a guy you'd really want playing with Morgan Rielly because they have a similar type game. And, we want to see Morgan Rielly flourish offensively. And that's where Ron Hainsey is supposed to offset, defensively what Morgan Rielly's, trying to dabble in offensively and defensively. So I guess Ron Hainsey's certainly out of place, but, you're not going to put Igor Ozhiganov up there or Justin Holl or Martin Marincin. So it's just basically, he's got to use the guys he Mike Babcock has to use the guys he has at his disposal. And this is the way it is. And that's why I try to stress the people. Look, this is game 2. This is the first rough draft of a roster that's going to be evolving as time goes on. So, don't get your panties in a bunch.
Yeah, and remember, at the beginning of last year, Borgman, Rosen, Eric Fair, Dominic Moore, there was a rotation of the fourth line center. There was a rotation of the sixth defenseman. It took them a while to get to where they were going to go at the halfway mark of the season, and even into March when they brought up Andreas Janssen and acquired Thomas Buchanan. So, you're right, there will be changes, but I'm just saying that, it will be a concern going forward if Hainsey plays as he did, and he didn't play well in the exhibition schedule too, and he's 37 years old, so that's the thing you have to worry about, that he's reached a point where he's jumped the shark.
Yeah, I agree, but he's hanging on because he's a necessity right now. The Leafs, just as we know, have some holes to fill defensively, and you got a bunch of guys like Holl and Marincin and Ozhiganov, and you had Carrick prior, who are guys right now until they elevate to another level, and I'm just not sure those guys are who the Leafs truly need, but they're there at this point. This is the Leafs Convo. Norman James, Mike Augello. So Brendan Shanahan made some comments earlier this week about players taking a haircut financially in order to fit into the financial structure of the team, and it would benefit, most likely, the opportunity for that team to really push and win a championship. William Nylander over in Stockholm or wherever he is in Sweden, responding, okay, I saw the game. I understand their point, but I've got to look out for myself. Mm-hmm. What do you make of this, Mike? For me, I'm only talking about it because it's something to talk about. But other than that, when the game comes on tonight, I could care less if William Nylander's in the lineup or not, because I don't think the Leafs need him. I honestly just don't think they need him.
Well, let's just say this. I think they can survive without him. I think they need him, and they need to get the deal done, but they need to get the deal done on their terms. And I think that's what was behind Brendan Shanahan's comments were, if everybody wants to stay together, you're going to have to take a little less. I'm not saying that you have to be underpaid, but you have to realize that we can't, that the Leafs as an organization can't afford John Tavares at $11 million, Matthews at least that and maybe more, Marner, whatever he's going to sign for, Nylander, what he's asking, which is apparently still over $8 million, and then re-sign Gart. I mean, there's just not enough room to go around. So I think that was the gist of Shanahan's statement, and I think it's based in truth. And honestly, I just don't think William Nylander is an $8 million player. He's not Leon Draisaitl. He's not, he's not Johnny Gaudreau, who made, I think, a little less than $7 million. He's not David Pasternak, who's making 6.6. So if you're using comparables, he's in the $6 to $6.5 million range. That's what the Leafs are trying to get him at, and asking for more. I mean, it's the agent's job, and apparently his father Michael is involved in the negotiations as well. It's their job to push for as much as they can, but at a certain point, if the Leafs are successful and they continue to be successful in October, their leverage, if any, is gone. So I don't think it's going to be a lengthy process in terms of it like lasting into November, but I think it could be another couple weeks, and it's going to be William Nylander who caves, or it's going to be a bridge deal.
I like William Nylander. If he's on the team, great. If he's not and they trade him to get something else, that's fine too. I've made this point over and over. I like the Leafs over Leafs. I'm at a point in my support for this organization that I need to have a championship won by this team. And if that means you trade away William Nylander because it's just not working contractually, then so be it. I don't care about the memes. I don't care about the images. I don't care about his hair. I know a lot of kids do, a lot of fans, and that's great because they put their hopes and dreams in the struggles and the triumphs of these individuals. And that's their prerogative, and I'm glad they do. But for me, I look at them as this team win a championship. Now, William Nylander is the fourth best player on the Leafs. Maybe. He should be paid accordingly. And if you want to blame the fact there's not enough money to go around to pay this guy what he's demanding, well, then blame Kyle Dubas for signing John Tavares. And if anybody wants to tell me that John Tavares is not as good as William Nylander, you're crazy. I could care less about your sample size. 31 general managers out of 31 would take John Tavares. Now, he's making a ton of money, and that means there's less money to pay William Nylander. But you can't just pay this guy because he's had a small sample size and he's got great hair. He's got to no, but Mike, this guy has to, where he's at right now, you can go cash out later. You know what I'm saying? Go cash out later. Well, but you play for the team now. You'll get your money later, Mike. And honestly, him sitting there and responding to things that Shanahan says, and of course Kyle Dubas isn't saying much because they don't want to make Kyle Dubas look like he's adversarial. But if Kyle Dubas is a smart, astute hockey person, he realizes there's only so much money you have to play with, and guys like William Nylander, for as good as they are, have to fit into the process, and they have to fit into the overall structure. So, at the end of the day, I watch the games, and if Nylander's there, if he's not, so be it. If they can work out some sort of an arrangement, even if it's a détente and temporary, I'm fine with that too. Guys, just win me a bloody cup. Win me a Stanley Cup, and William Nylander, you can go do your photo shoots and sign autographs for your fans and stuff. Go do that. I hope, but win me a cup. And if you're on the team, William, great. If you're not, and the Leafs have to trade you to bring something back in to make it cohesive and get this damn dilemma over with, I'm for that too.
Yeah, I'll just say this finally. I think that the impasse, if it lasts another week or two, I don't think will affect Nylander positively or negatively in terms of his future with the Leafs. I think if it ends up going closer to December 1st, and he signs either a bridge deal or a long-term deal that's closer to the Leafs number, he may be if you're here for a year or two. But I think the difficulty that he's had in terms of negotiating contracts, not only with this one but with his entry-level deal, apparently, I think the Leafs see a path within their organization to fill the holes created by trading William Nylander someplace else. Mm-hmm. So that's where it may go, but eventually, but not immediately.
I guess the question is for fans who, people who love William Nylander and are viewing the Leafs as being the problem here because they're not paying his demands. Take it out on John Tavares, because had they not signed John Tavares, maybe they'd have more money for William Nylander. And the question is, would you rather, Mike, John Tavares not here and William Nylander paid healthily? Like, what would you rather?
I think having depth at center is all important, and I like William Nylander as a player, but if it's a question of a 1-for-1, I'll take Tavares over Nylander.
Well, look at John Tavares. I mean, he draws penalties. They can't handle him. They couldn't handle him. Montreal couldn't handle him. Maybe he draws penalties. You see the goal he scored?
Yes.
I mean, the guy is the goods, and he's right at the peak of his career. The damage that he and Austin Matthews are going to do this year is, if they're both healthy, Mike, is just unbelievable. And that's another reason why William Nylander is they've got to put this behind them, get something done, even if it's a bridge deal. Get something done. You'll make your money. But right now, the focus is on the several players who are higher status than he is, who have more skill and are of more importance to the team. These guys can carry the day without William Nylander. He is almost as if the cherry on top. He's not a necessity. I'm telling you right now, they're not going to look back and go, well, this team only got 110 points, and it could have had 115 if William Nylander was there. I mean, he's a great player, but he is not the focal point of this team, and he's not an absolute necessity. So the longer he sits out, he's going to have the faction that are pouting on his behalf. The longer he sits out, the less, he's going to come to mind as this team, plows forward, because they've got a lot of dynamic players on the ice, and we just barely at the tip of the iceberg in that opener. Anyway, Mike, any final thoughts? We got to go.
No, it'll just be. I think it'll just be curious to see Garrett Sparks tomorrow in Chicago. I think it will be a very key moment for this team because if he plays well, then all the fears of the backup goaltending situation will be assuaged for a little while. But if he doesn't have a good game, then you're going to say, oh, when can we get Curtis McElhinney back, or when can we get Calvin Pickard back? Because really, there's no plan B after Garrett Sparks right now.
Yeah, Mac was already in net for a win for the Hurricanes too. As I guess I saw a picture on Twitter. It's kind of weird. The guy was, he's been with the Leafs for how long? A couple of
2
seasons.
years. Yeah.
He was with them for training camp, and now he's picking up victories for other NHL teams. That's the business. Talk to you later, Mike.
Thanks, Norman.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Leafs Convo podcast. How do you listen to us? Which podcast platform? Or are you devoted to YouTube? If you are, thank you so much. If you're not, get over to YouTube, subscribe. We got lots of good stuff over there. Dylan Morrow, Jillian McLeod, Ronaldo Brown, Kyle Outridge, all contributing to the podcast through YouTube, and they're doing a great job. You want to get at me or Mike Augello on Twitter? Go ahead and do it. At Mike in Buffalo, at Norman James TLC. Heck, tweet at the podcast if you want. At the Leafs Convo. Look, I like William Nylander. I like the Maple Leafs. And I hope these two can come together on some sort of deal so William can help take the Leafs to that next level. But at the end of the day, and I will shout this from the rooftops, I will repeat this ad nauseum. I like the Leafs over Leafs. Team over the players. That's just where I'm at in terms of my fandom. For Mike Augello, I'm Norman James. We'll talk to you soon. The Leafs Convo is out.